Welcome to Legal Matters with the Crosby Law Firm and WIFR. I'm 23 News anchor Mike Garrigan, and our guest is attorney Michael Crosby with the Crosby Law Firm. As you may recall from our August pilot show, Legal Matters is a half-hour informational and news call-in show devoted to a variety of legal topics of interest to the State Line viewers. And this is important. We have attorneys standing by right now to take your call at the number on your screen. They'll provide you with free information regarding your issue, so call now and really throughout the next half hour. Now let's introduce our guest. It's Michael Crosby, the managing attorney for the Crosby Law Firm. He's a Rockford native who's been practicing law since 1976 when he served as counsel to former U.S. Senator and presidential candidate Bob Dole. Crosby then returned to his hometown of Rockford, where he's been practicing since 1980. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate being here.
Yes, and we had a pilot program, and it was so successful. It aired here on WIFR. It was so overwhelmingly successful that we decided to team up again and to start a series premiere.
Absolutely. For a number of years, the Crosby Law Firm has been talking with WIFR about launching a program very similar to the Face the Nation program that appears on CBS on Sunday morning, a viewer call-in talk show regarding legal issues and other matters of interest to the community. So in August, you and I, we launched the pilot program, and it was very, very well received. The number of calls that our office received was incredible, and we think we've helped a lot of viewers who had a lot of serious issues. And so given the success of the pilot program, tonight is our season premiere. And we look forward to a long and productive relationship with WIFR, and here we go.
And one of the unique aspects I think is so popular is that, again, no matter when you're watching this, there are phones standing by, there are attorneys standing by on phones to answer any legal question for free.
Absolutely. The whole premise of this program is to engage in a dialogue over issues that are of interest to your viewers and to the community, and to encourage them to call in immediately. We have attorneys standing by who will provide free information about any area of the law that concerns them.
And we do want to get into a lot of topics, but first let's delve into a little bit about the history of the Crosby Law Firm and the culture of it.
We've been doing this in Rockford for 33 years. As you mentioned at the intro, I was a regional counsel to Senator Bob Dole, been practicing law since 1976, returned to my hometown in 1980, where we launched the predecessor law firms to the Crosby Law Firm. So 33 years of a general practice law firm, helping a lot of people in our area with a lot of issues. And that's our history. This is my hometown. My family migrated here at the turn of the 20th century in the early 1900s. This is our way of giving back. It's our way of making a contribution, and that's the history of our law firm.
Now, the 33 years shows you have roots, but you're also ever evolving. You have this Crosby Law Firm initiative that you recently launched. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Local roots, lasting strength is kind of our motto with a law firm. But the Crosby Law Firm initiative is something that we've recently launched as our way of giving back to the community through this show, through seminars that we're launching throughout the community on various issues of the law. Our way of reaching out to the community and trying to help.
And now this client-friendly relationship with the client is something that really piqued a lot of people's interest when we ran that pilot show. Can you talk a little bit more about that, about how you are very much focused on the client?
As I mentioned in August, our law firm represents people, individuals of the Rock River Valley. We don't represent big corporations. We don't represent government bodies. We represent individuals who come to us with some serious issues. We recognize the trauma that they're experiencing in their household. One of the ways that we try to reduce the stress, we offer them a free consultation to evaluate their case and determine what we think is the best way to problem solve. Moving forward from the free consultation, we'll provide them with a flat fee. Most law firms charge by the hour. A 5-minute phone call, you get a bill. A 2-paragraph letter, you get a bill. With our office, we charge flat fees so you know where you stand from the inception. You're able to budget what your expenses are going to be related to your issue. Furthermore, we offer payment plans, very similar to what can happen with a hospital. If you have medical bills and the hospital will structure payment plans with you, so will we.
Now, those are very important for a lot of people that are financially strapped to figure out how to solve their problems, but there's other ways in which the Crosby Law Firm stands out. What are some other ways?
The practice areas, very similar to a hospital. We have 6 different practice areas that we try to devote our time and our energy to regarding the clients. And that sets us apart from a lot of other law firms who only focus on 1 area or 2 areas of the law.
And we'll get into those 6 areas, and we'll talk a little bit about divorce law specifically coming up a little bit. We do want to remind you, though, that the Crosby Law Firm has attorneys standing by right now to take your call and to provide you, again, with free information regarding any issue you may have. If you're going through a divorce, again, and have some legal questions, you're not alone. We will look into that coming up when Legal Matters continues. Welcome back to Legal Matters. I'm 23 News anchor Mike Garrigan, talking law with the managing attorney for the Crosby Law Firm, Michael Crosby. And Mike, one thing that really separates you from others is that you don't just concentrate on one thing. There are 6 different areas of concentration that your law firm takes care of. What are those 6?
Very similar to a hospital, Swedish American, OSF, Rockford Memorial. Hospitals provide a broad array of healthcare services, oncology, orthopedics, pediatrics, etc. With our law firm, we provide a broad array of legal representation in a variety of areas of law. We have a center for divorce and family law, an auto accident and personal injury department, a bankruptcy institute, a center for DUI, traffic, and criminal defense, an advanced care planning and probate center, and a division for real estate and business matters.
Okay, we can't discuss all 6 of those right now in this one segment, but for our season premiere, I think we want to talk about divorce. It affects so many people. I'm very fortunate. I've just celebrated my 20th wedding anniversary with my wife this month, and so, but I have a lot of friends that have had to dealt with a very painful issue, and it just, why don't you go into a little bit about just, how important it is for people to feel comfortable when they're dealing with such a tough topic.
It's a very tough topic. Before I touch on the divorce issue, where we're going to spend several minutes tonight, I want to once again remind the folks that our law firm handles a variety of areas. We have attorneys standing by right now to take your call. So while we're going to devote time tonight to the divorce area, in future episodes of our show, we're going to tackle other issues. But if you have questions or issues not regarding divorce, please feel free to call in right now. Lawyers are standing by. Be happy to take your call, deal with your particular problem, and hopefully help you problem solve. That said, regarding divorce matters, in our office, when someone comes in to visit with us on a divorce matter, we kind of divide up the consultation into a part 1 and a part 2. Part 1 is our way of hearing the client's story. Relationships. Here on planet Earth, all of us make choices every day, and relationships can be very, very difficult, very, very challenging. And so the first thing that I'll discuss with a prospective client is whether there's any hope of putting the relationship back together with the intervention of a minister or a marriage counselor. So we'll talk about whether they think counseling can be of some assistance and whether the marriage can be put back together. Presuming that that's not a possibility, then as we move forward, recognizing the trauma that's existed in the household or the relationship, we want to do things to minimize the trauma. 8, maybe 9 times out of 10, the best way to resolve divorce issues, to problem solve, is low key, diplomatically, with the Department of State, not the Department of Defense. Typically you get more with honey than vinegar. So we attempt to problem solve low key, navigate the problem. Most folks are interested in fairness and they're interested in early dispute resolution. That said, if the other spouse does something stupid, requires us to tee it up, play hardball, take somebody to the mat, we can do that with the best of them. 8 and 10 though, best way to handle this is low key and diplomatically. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, what are some issues that clients have to deal with in getting a divorce complete?
Well, the first thing that we'll try to tackle is the reason behind the hemorrhage in the relationship. So there are a variety of reasons that lead people to decide to get divorced and to dissolve their marriage, dissolve the relationship. We'll try to get a handle on what those issues are. Many cases, it's miscommunication or lack of communication. In other cases, there may be alcohol issues, drug issues, sexual infidelity. There may be parenting issues because there may be stepchildren involved, emotional, mental distress. So we tackle all of those issues in an effort to get our arms around the relationship so that we can better relate to our client, better empathize with what they're going through. Once we've had that segment completed and kind of heard their story so that we can better relate to them and better empathize with them, then we'll turn the page and we'll start talking about the major issues that most folks have to confront or deal with in a divorce. In our state, as in most states, there are really about 5 major issues that need to be tackled. The first issue, in many cases, is children. Custody, visitation, child support. Second issue that needs to be touched upon are property issues. How to divide up assets and debts. House, 401k, credit card debts, cars, personal property in the house, checking accounts, savings accounts, so forth and so on. Third major issue that needs to be tackled is whether either spouse, husband or wife, is a candidate for maintenance or alimony, as it's commonly referred to. Fourth major issue is the attorney's fees and the related expenses concerning a divorce. And the fifth issue, which is a very important issue in almost every case, is what we commonly refer to as the interim issues. If there's a start to the divorce and a finish to the divorce, while the case is pending, making its way through the system, it's important that we create, with the help of the court, create some boundaries. Who's going to occupy the house? Who's going to take care of making the house payment? Who's going to have what vehicle? If there are children involved, who are the children going to live with while the case is pending? These are the interim issues. Our goal, our objective, is to minimize stress and to create some boundaries that everyone can live with. One of the first things that's very difficult for most people to encounter and to think through is how to go about starting the case. What's the first thing to communicate to the spouse, to the other spouse, that the case has started? That's all part of this interim issue that I've just discussed.
You know, Mike, in the time we've gotten to know each other, I pen you as a very optimistic guy. Am I reading you right?
No question, Mike. I try to be optimistic. The cup is half full, not half empty. I'm optimistic that we can help people solve their problems. That's why I encourage them to call in tonight. We've got lawyers standing by right now to take their call. I'm optimistic about our community. That's why we've got the New Day and the Rock River Valley commercial that's running on TV now. I drove by Perryville and Harlem Road the other day and I saw the Woodward Governor project under construction. I drove at McFarland and Interstate 90 the other day and I saw the Swedish American Hospital project. So there's a lot to be optimistic about in our community, a lot to be optimistic about with our law firm being able to help folks who have some serious issues. So call in.
Again, yeah, call in right now. It's the number at the bottom of your screen, and attorneys are standing by. One of the unique things about the season premiere. And we're just halfway done with the season premiere of Legal Matters. Coming up, we will talk with John Hanson from the American Law Firm when we come back. Welcome back to Legal Matters. We are now joined by attorney John Hanson from the American Law Firm. And before we talk specifics, John, tell us a little bit about the American Law Firm.
Well, first I want to thank you for having us on the program. The American Law Firm is located in Rockford, and we're near the intersection of Mulford and East State. And we represent clients in many different areas of law. We're called a general practice law firm. And that means we represent clients in divorce and bankruptcy, criminal DUI defense, estate planning and probate, personal injury, to name a few. One thing I want to mention is there's a reason why we're called the American Law Firm. It's because we believe in core American values of honest hard work and respect for individuals. And we believe our method of representation plays that out. No matter the client's background, no matter their problems, we give every client the time to really figure out what their solution should be.
Okay.
And one thing I do want to mention that we offer that's a little bit special is simple flat fees for any legal case we take in, which are very budget friendly for clients. Sometimes clients are in a financial bind and we'll offer payment plans for them too. And also we offer free consultations to any client in any area of law that we practice.
Free and flexible, those are some of the keys for
Right.
sure. Well, you mentioned one of the areas that you focus on is bankruptcy. Can you tell us some things about bankruptcy in general?
Sure. Bankruptcy is a discharge of various types of debts. Now for individual clients, the most common types of bankruptcies they're going to be involved in normally are a Chapter 7 and a Chapter 13. And the name chapters actually come out of chapters of bankruptcy code books. Now, Chapter 7 is commonly faced if somebody's facing a lot of credit card debts or medical bill debts, what we call unsecured debt. Whereas Chapter 13 is often faced when they want to pay their debt, but they're behind, like for a foreclosure, for example, and they're behind on their home, or if they're owing a lot on a car and they want to catch up on that.
Okay, now what's involved in the bankruptcy process from a client's point of view?
Well, first we sit down with the client to really look at their finances. We'll look at their monthly budget, their income. We'll look at each debt and see what the amounts of the debts are, what types of debts they are, and come up with a real-world solution for their financial problems, whether it's a bankruptcy or not. Now, if it is a bankruptcy, we will file a petition that gives us a new case, and the petition gets sent out by the court to all the creditors listed in the petition. And that's important because once the creditors receive that petition, it's an automatic freeze from them conducting any collections efforts. That means they can't file lawsuits, they can't even telephone or send letters. And that freeze is called an automatic stay. Now, this is a major decision once we embark upon this, so we always encourage clients to spend the time with us and make sure we understand all the financial ins and outs before we pull the trigger on that. Now, we do want to mention, we do have attorneys standing by right now during this broadcast, standing by the phones to answer any questions viewers may have right now on this area or any area of law that we practice.
And you see that number on the bottom of your screen, so
Correct.
That's very important. And it does seem like Chapter 7 would be the preferred type of bankruptcy to file for most people if it's a full discharge of debt. So when is Chapter 13 a better option than Chapter 7?
That's a common question. Chapter 13 would be the preferred option if the person who wants to file is making a lot of money, basically, has a high income, because there's certain income limits that the bankruptcy laws provide for Chapter 7 filers. The second scenario somebody would want to file Chapter 13 in is if they have a lot of assets owned free and clear that they might stand to lose if they file a Chapter 7. Now, even though the bankruptcy laws say you can't file a Chapter 7 if you own a lot of property free and clear, the law does provide for exclusions, as it's called, meaning you can keep certain property and still file a Chapter 7 discharge. The exclusions are varied, as are the amounts of money in each exclusion. So we encourage clients to give us a call. We have attorneys standing by right now. We can kind of walk them through the ins and outs of the exclusions if they're thinking about doing a bankruptcy.
Now, are there any type of debts that can't be bankrupted?
Well, generally there are a few. For example, federal and state tax debts cannot be bankrupted, as cannot child support obligations, and in most cases student loans are protected. But there are even exceptions to those rules. For example, you can discharge certain federal tax debts, and in extreme circumstances you can even discharge student loan debt if you meet certain qualifications.
Now, if a married couple is involved, do they have to file together?
No, they don't have to file together. A husband and wife can file jointly in a bankruptcy of either Chapter 7 or 13, or one spouse can file by themselves. We encourage, when we sit down with clients, only one spouse filing if possible. So we'll look at their debts, we'll look at whose name is on the debt, and we'll try to work out where one spouse doesn't have to file to protect their credit rating and help the family out. And one thing I want to mention is creditors can't go after a spouse just because they're married to somebody who's filing a bankruptcy. So we often talk about that with the clients as well.
That's important to know for sure. Now, if a person has filed for bankruptcy before, can they file again? Is this a one-time deal?
No, they can file again, but the bankruptcy laws provide for waiting periods in between the bankruptcies. And, you know, of course, if we do a bankruptcy for a client, we hope we never see them again on a bankruptcy and they never have to do that again. But specifically, the waiting periods are 8 years between Chapter 7s, and between a Chapter 13, you have to wait 2 years from the date of the initial filing to the second one in most circumstances.
Okay, and it's important to note that as this segment is being shown, we do have attorneys standing by right now answering legal questions from the American law firm. The callers have the questions and they will provide some free information. That number again is 815-394-1776. You've been seeing it scrolled on the bottom of your screen. Viewers should call that number right now again to get that advice. When we return to Legal Matters, John Hanson will share his knowledge on estate planning. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's Mike Garrigan and attorney John Hanson continuing to talk legal matters that affect many state liners. And John, you mentioned the American law firm handles estate planning work for clients. What does this entail exactly?
Well, in this sense, estate planning entails drafting certain documents for a person, such as a will or a power of attorney, that addresses what that person's wishes are for where their property goes when they pass away, and for also who takes care of them when they're ailing and they're ill at the end of their life. Now, we call these documents at our law firm the advanced care plan documents. because we're basically planning in advance for the care of this person.
So what documents should a person have as part of their estate planning or their advanced care plan?
Well, you know, every case is different, and when we meet with a client, we first sit down and talk about what they want as far as where their property is going to go, and who should be the decision maker for the doctors, for example, towards the end of their life. And that being said, though, there's some common documents everybody should have, and I'll go through a couple of them real quick. First, of course, there's the will, which says initially who the beneficiaries are going to be, the heirs to the estate. And secondly, it'll say who the executor is going to be. And the executor is a person who's in charge of making sure the will is followed through with. And one thing I want to mention about wills are, a lot of people think wills are just for people that have a lot of money or wealthy people. And this couldn't be farther from the truth. For example, if you're a young person, you don't have a lot of property, don't have a lot of money, but you do have a family, you have a child, for example, the will have a provision in it that says, if something happens to me, I want this person to be the parent, the guardian of my child. And that's just one example of a real vital part of a will that can be beneficial to anybody. Secondly, a real common document that we do is called a power of attorney for health care decisions. Now this is for when someone's still alive, and it only kicks in if that person is rendered to be incapacitated by a doctor. For example, if you're in a coma or something like that, you're still alive, you just can't make any decisions, you can't speak. The power of attorney will direct the doctors to go to that one person in the power of attorney document to be the decision maker for the patient.
And it's a good time to remind you right now, you can use that number on the bottom of your screen right now. There are attorneys from the American law firm standing by to answer your questions on estate planning or any other questions you might have. And again, that would be a free consultation. So John, what role do trusts play in the estate planning process?
Sure, a trust is a common part of some people's estate planning documents. And what typically people will have when they have a trust is called a revocable trust, otherwise called an inter vivos trust. Now the trust is created while they're still alive, and basically the attorneys fund the trust with certain property.
So what are the benefits of having a trust?
Well, the benefits are many, and not every client needs a trust. So when we have a new client come in, we'll meet with them and look at their assets, look at their property, and give them a diagnosis whether they need a trust or not. If they do, there's some common benefits that they can enjoy. First of all, privacy. When we fund a trust, basically we're moving property into it, into the name of the trust. The person still owns it, but it's in the name of the trust now. So if there's creditors or third parties out there trying to find out what a person has in terms of property or wealth, it's harder for them to find that. Second benefit is simplicity. I mentioned previously that if you have a certain amount of property that's worth over $100,000 or you have real estate, the law in Illinois requires when you pass away that there be a probate court case opened. And probate court is a public case, and there's many court appearances involved, many months, sometimes years involved, and sometimes thousands of dollars of attorney's fees involved. And a trust can solve that problem by saying directly who benefits from the trust when the person passes away. Now for many people, their only asset is their house. And if that's the case, they may not need a trust, and we could prepare for them what is called a transferable on death instrument, which basically says who inherits the house when they pass away.
Okay, let's talk a little bit more about this transferable death instrument. How does this work?
Well, it's often called a TODI, T-O-D-I for short, and it gets recorded like the deed to the house, and it sets out who inherits the house when the person passes away. Now remember, the law in Illinois says if you have a house and you pass away, there must be a probate court case opened, which can take a lot of time and a lot of money to do. The legislature in Illinois recently passed a law that says we can now do this transferable on death instrument, which avoids probate court altogether.
So is there anything else, John, you want to leave us with tonight?
Well, yeah, I want to thank you again for having us on the program. Our law firm represents clients in many areas of law, and we believe in the core American values of hard work and respect for the individual, regardless of their background and no matter their problem. We offer to clients simple flat fees for many areas of law, which is a lot more budget-friendly than retainers. For clients that are in a financial bind, we offer payment plans, and we always offer free consultations to any person in the public for any area of law.
Okay, we appreciate your time. Thanks
All right,
a lot,
thanks,
and your
Mike.
insight. Thanks, John. And we should mention again, the American Law Firm has attorneys standing by right now to answer your legal questions. It's the number at the bottom of the screen. We'll be right back.